If you recall in my previous video, we took our Artificer from level 1 through to level 6, going through all of the various features that we are gaining as part of this process. Now it is time to continue leveling this character from level 7 up as high as we can go, and hopefully we'll be able to get to level 20 in this video, but don't be surprised if I break this up into a third video depending on how long it takes to cover all the information and material that we need to go over, because this is a new class to me, so I haven't really gone through and learned everything yet about this particular class, and there are still questions that I have that I might actually try to cover as much detail around through these videos. So with that, let's continue on with leveling our character up. Now, at level 7, we are gaining a new feature called Flash of Genius. We are not, however, gaining any of the additional infusion capabilities here, and at level 7, we are gaining our third spell slot here, but it already seems to be screwing up a little bit based on what we ran into last time. So let's see how this works when I apply the level. It did not add the third spell slot here, and decided it wanted to create a 4th level spell slot. Not entirely certain why that is happening. Let me look into that. Unfortunately, this does indeed appear to be a bug, so I will report this to Fantasy Grounds, or Smiteworks rather, and let them know. In the meantime, just manually fix everything so that it matches what you have in this known spell slots list. Now, having said that, I am at 7th level, and while I did gain a new 2nd level spell slot, I did not gain the ability to prepare any additional spells. So that means that we just need to focus on the actual ability that we gained at Flash of Genius. Let's take a look at that. With the Flash of Genius feature, you are gaining the ability to more or less intervene in somebody's skill check or saving throw, or your own if you wish. During a combat situation, you can make use of a reaction to add your intelligence modifier to their saving throw roll or to their ability check roll. In our case, it would be a +5. You can make use of this particular feature up to your intelligence modifier number of times per day. So in the case of our character here, we can do this 5 times a day, which means that we need to set this to our actions tab so that we can track it. Now, here's the catch. Those of you who are unfamiliar with how reactions work, and I've tried to say that 8 times now, so I'm sticking with this copy of the video. You need to know that you can only make use of one reaction per round. No matter how many times you do that, unless your character has the ability to say this is regardless of whether you have used a reaction or not. So you will gain a feature or an ability that intentionally states that. This skill does not intentionally state that. What this means is that you can make use of one of your uses during a reaction to add your +X bonus of your intelligence modifier to somebody else's roll or to a roll you have to make. That's what that comes down to. If, however, you have already used your reaction during that particular round, you cannot do this. So you need to be very careful on that. That's a point of confusion that always seems to catch a lot of players. Now, granted, this is a new class, but reactions in general tend to confuse people, or confuse players, so you got to be careful. Now, this can be added to our Actions tab. It is an Artificer-based ability, Artificer. Now, all we have to do is actually set a number of uses per day. In this case, that would be 5, because that is what our current intelligence modifier is. Which means that I can now make use of this 5 times over the course of a day before I have to take a long rest and regain the ability to use them. And they all come back after you have finished a long rest. So any of the uses that you have done, you can do this. You get a minimum of 1. So even if you had an intelligence modifier that was in the negatives, you would still get at least 1. And that is everything that we actually need to deal with when it comes to level 7. At level 8, we are gaining our next ability score improvement. And you will see that it seems to occur every 4 levels. With the exception of 19, that happens at 3rd level, or 3 level gains, I should say. In this particular case, because I've increased one ability score by 2 points, and I've already explained that with the Constitution, I'm going to take 2 ability scores and increase each of them by 1 point, just so you can see how that will actually work. I cannot increase my intelligence past 20, which means I cannot increase this through this process any further. It's already at 20. You can't naturally increase it unless you get a feat that tells you you can. We haven't, so that's not happening. What I will do, though, is I will add a +1 to here and bring this up to a 10. So that zeroes out the negative bonus there and gives me a +1 modified bonus over top of what I already had, which means I can now add 7 additional hit points to my character. That's bringing that up to 52. Excellent. And that's all we have to worry about when it comes to level 8 for this section. Let's take a look at our spells. Now, while we aren't gaining any additional spell slots, and we should not have gained a spell slot here, which we didn't, we do have the ability to prepare another spell. However, we haven't learned any new spells or learned any new spells. And in fact, I think I kind of forgot to take the one for there. So technically, we have learned a new spell at level 7. Oops. All right. Let's very quickly add in another spell. So this will be a minor correction that will be made even though it won't show up in the level 7 section of the video. So this will be a level 2 spell again. Just for kicks, Arcane Lock. And now I can prepare that spell. So level 7 correction, don't forget to take your spells. And level 8, make sure that you can actually make use of those spells. And that completes everything that we need to deal with when it comes to level 8. At level 9, we are gaining our next Artificer Specialist feature. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to keep that open down there just so that it's available and I don't have to keep opening and closing this. And the reason I'm doing that is because also at level 9, we are gaining our first 3rd level spell slots. Quote unquote, 2 of them. So, what I should see up here, which I don't see, no, okay, it has now appeared to have broken. So we have 3, 4, 3, and 2. So this should be 2. There we go. And because of that, let's see, do we gain any additional spells that we will know? Math 5 plus 5 is 10. How many do I have now? No, 9 divided by 2 is 4 still. Okay. So I've already prepared 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've already got 9 spells. But it does mean that I can actually still learn an additional spell. I was actually incorrect on that statement. Rereading through the preparations casting spells, you do not gain new spells when you level up. You gain new spells, or correction, you change your list of prepared spells. Thereby you can refresh your list of known spells at the time of a long rest. So when you complete a long rest, you can go through and sit down and readjust your list of spells that are known here. So what that means is that much like a cleric who has the availability to choose any of these spells that they know at a particular point in time, specifically when they rest, I should say, artificers look like they can do the exact same thing. So after you have completed a long rest, if you feel that all of these spells that you have in your list here are no longer applicable and you don't need them, you can get rid of them all and select a new one. It will take at least 1 minute per spell level for each of the spells on your list that you choose, that you're going to replace. And it can only be done when you finish a long rest. So it seems to be the trend for an artificer that you have to complete the long rest before you have the ability to do something. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't drop a spell that you might like, that you use quite regularly, and you might decide that you want to switch between. So for instance, as a DM, I would allow you to say, okay, I've just unlocked a couple of third level spells. These ones I might like to look at later. Drop them into place. So, for example, let's say haste or dispel magic, but they're useless to you unless you've actually taken the time to actually prepare them. So I would imagine that a lot of DMs would work that way. That way you don't have to completely swap everything out every time you want to change out your list. All you do is you go, I don't want that, I don't want that, I want this and this instead. Okay? So that's the way that I would feel it would work for the Artificer. And that completes everything that we need to deal with when it comes to level 9, because we don't have to worry about the proficiency bonus gain here. So at level 10, we are gaining a new feature called Magic Item Adept. That sounds interesting. We are also gaining an increase in the number of known infusions, meaning that we could go through that list of infusible spells that we could cast and add 2 additional items to our known list. And really the best place to track that would be in your notes section, I feel. Or you could potentially just keep copying the infuse item thing with in brackets the name of the infusion you've decided to choose. But that could get a little bit manipulative. And then finally, you can now use up to 4 items. As we are now 10th level, we will be able to prepare a 10th spell, because 10 divided by 2 is 5, plus 5 for our intelligence modifier gives us 10. Unlike my previous math, which was 9 divided by 2 equals 5. No, that doesn't work. It's rounded down. So 9 divided by 2 equals 4. So with that, I can now prepare one of my other known spells. And I'm going to drop the level. Oh, I apparently haven't dropped this level into place for a little while. My apologies. Thank you for anyone who is telling me in the comments. So at level 10, we are also seeing our first cantrip increase. So let's just very quickly drop a new cantrip into place. I'm just going to grab Firebolt. Give me something to hit something with. And that will do. And let's take a look at the Magic Adept. Item Adept, here we go. So let's have a look at this particular skill. So with Magic Item Adept, you are now gaining a couple of things. You can attune up to 4 magic items at once, which is good because generally you can only attune 2. Additionally, you now have the ability to craft items with a rarity value of common or uncommon. This means this is different from the infusion capability. So you're actually taking the time to properly enchant a weapon with an enchantment that will last. That could be an increase in its attack and damage bonuses. That could be giving a sword the ability to cast forth light on a command, that kind of thing. Whatever you wish to try to enchant it into it, as long as you have the ability to actually cast it, is the trick there. It takes let me rephrase that. It takes a quarter the amount of time that it would usually take to do, and it costs you half as much as the amount of gold it would usually cost. So that is actually a nice little improvement. This is not something you need to add to your actions tab. And that is actually everything that we need to look at for level 10. Now level 11, we are gaining a new feature. No additional changes there, and we are gaining an increase in our total number of spell slots. So, unlike our previous 6 levels, let's drop that into place. 4 levels actually, but see if it has screwed up my spell slots. It looks like it might have. Yeah. So, I should have 4, 3, and 3. So, 4, 3, and 3. And let's get rid of this, this, and this. Boom. Okay, good. So let's take a look at the spell storing item here. Spell storing item. And expand this out a little bit so that we can see it. With spell storing items feature, I know that there's not an S on that, don't worry about it. It's a very hard sentence to say for some reason. I've tried 12 times so far. You can now store a spell in an object, and this is a spell that you yourself have to be able to cast. Whenever you have finished a long rest, so there's that theme again about the rest period, you can touch any simple or martial weapon or an item that you wish to use as a spellcasting focus. So it could be a ring that might be on your finger, it could be a piece of jewelry, it could be just a piece of ornate metal that you're walking around with, that kind of thing. You can cast that particular spell in a way that it gets absorbed into that particular item and more or less holds it. So you kind of think of it as preparing the spell in advance. You don't have to hold the item though. You can enchant that item, and although it's not really the right word there, and hand that off to another party member, and then as long as they use that spell, they can do so a number of times equal to twice your intelligence modifier. So in the case of this particular character, it could be used 10 times. Then they would have to hand it back to you, and you could put the enchantment back in it and give it back to them again after you've completed another long rest. That item will hold it, and it will stay there until it's either cast, out of charges, or until you have decided to store another spell in a different item. And that's how that ability is actually going to work. So once again, this isn't something that you're going to want to add to your actions tab. However, it will trigger the creation of actionable items either in your own inventory sheet, or your action sheet, I mean, or in a party member's action sheet. Or if you're really evil, in somebody else's action sheet that might be an enemy that might accidentally use it and trigger a curse, blah, 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 that kind of thing. But again, you have to be able to cast it. So that was just my DM's brain going off on a little bit of a tangent. Now, having said that, the way that the text is written here is a little bit confusing because it looks like there's a spelling mistake here or something got parsed wrongly. It will take one action to cast that item. So if you've given somebody a sword, let's say, that has a light spell in it, then if they've chosen to cast it, it's going to take them that action to cast it. So they won't be able to make an attack action. And because it is a spellcasting action, it will fall under the spellcasting guidelines. So even if you give that item to a character who happens to have extra attacks, they don't get to use that extra attack anymore. Because extra attacks deal with ranged or melee types of attacks. It does not deal with spellcasting. Spellcasting, unless the spell states it can be done so, does not allow you to cast multiple times in the same round. So you want to be cognizant of that. So giving somebody a sword that flings fireballs might be fun, but chances are they're in a melee combat. Might not be the best combination. Just food for thought there. I'm not saying you can't do it. It'll still be fun. I mean, you just swing that sword and a fireball comes out of it. That's going to spook the crap out of somebody. Anyway, but I'm digressing, and I'm unintentionally making this video longer because of that. So let's move on to the next set of changes here, which, according to level 11, we are done. So let's move on to the next level. So at level 12, we are gaining another ability score improvement. And the ability to essentially prepare another spell, even though we're not going to be able to cast that level spell because we haven't, well, I suppose we could, but regardless. So I currently have, let's see, I currently have 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spells. I'm going to be able to do 11. And that means that I could potentially throw another spell into our list here. So let's do Revivify just for kicks. And that is a level 3? That is a level 3. And then I can actually go ahead and prepare that spell so that it is available for use. Or I could have used Arcane Lock. That's how that would work. So, I mean, I could have chosen to prepare Arcane Lock, but I chose to add a different spell and do that. And even though Arcane Lock is here, it's not available to me because I don't have it prepared. So minimal impact to whether that spell is in that list or not. And that completes the spell selection for level 12. As for the ability score improvement, I'm going to take a very quick glance here to pull out a feat that I really haven't done yet and see if there's anything here that we can make use of. So here is an interesting one. I'm going to choose Metamagic Adept, which is also one of the new feats that has come through Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So I'm going to drop this into here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because it adds an interesting twist, if you will, to spellcasting capabilities in the sense that you're learning to metamagic capabilities. So we're going to want to open up the Sorcerer's class here. And from the Player's Handbook is the preferred option because it will get you to what you need to do. And down at the bottom here, you will see a feat called Metamagic right there. And within this will be the options that you can choose. So you can choose to cast a careful spell, a distance spell, an empowered spell, an extended spell, heightened spell, quickened spell, subtle spell, or twinned spell when you make use of this feature. You are also going to gain what are called sorcery points. And you could theoretically go watch the sorcerer videos that I've already recorded to learn how to do that. But essentially what I'd like to do is add the feature that is giving me the sorcery points to the actual actions tab. And this is going to be a feats because we are gaining this and adding this as a feat. And that's done here. And then I'm going to track the number of daily uses. So in this case, it says I gain 2 sorcery points. Now, what that means is that I now have 2 points here we can track. So let's call this sorcery points in brackets just for clarity. Now, the metamagic that we can choose, I'm going to say twinned spell. And if that works, yep, 1 sorcery point. Okay, no, sorry. Which means that I can twin up to a 2nd level spell, essentially, is what that comes down to. And let's see. An empowered spell. I will do that. And that gives me the ability to modify any of the spells that I take. So I'm going to add Metamagic to this feats section twice. If it'll let me. Yes, it will. Good. Now, so I'm going to move this down to feats. And this down to feats. And the reason I've done that twice is because I'm going to make use of naming each of these. Oops, there should be a close bracket there. With the metamagic I chose. Twinned spell. And the reason for that is it puts everything I need to know, when it comes to metamagic right there in the feats section. So I now know that right off I have twin spell and empowered spell metamagic features. If I have to, I can simply click on this dragon icon here to open it up so that I can actually see the information. But now when I actually go ahead and say I am going to twin catapult, for example, I click on 1 sorcery point because that's a level 1 spell. If I twin it again, I click on this, and I lose the ability to actually make use of that for the rest of the duration. You see it's no longer there until I've completed a long rest. And that is required. You must complete it for a long rest, or complete a long rest. So this will set it up nicely and makes it nice and convenient to use. It's an interesting combination when it comes to an Artificer, actually, as well. And that completes everything that we need to do for level 12. And again, feats are only going to be selectable if the Dungeon Master is going to allow you to do so. So just be cognizant of that. And before I stop the recording here, I will execute a long rest on the DM screen. And that'll bring that back so that we can see that everything is there. Now, I'm not sure what's happening here, but it looks like we're not really gaining any new feat or any new Artificer Specialist feature here. So We are gaining an increase in our proficiency bonus. We are not gaining any of those. And we are gaining our first 4th level spell slot. So that's probably why we're not gaining any here. So I'm going to very quickly apply the 2 levels that I've missed, apparently. Sorry. I swear, I do have a script that I'm following. I just apparently am skipping that part of it. I am now wondering why I have a 7th level spell slot. So that goes away. We gain what? 1? 4th level? Yep. So we're gaining 1 4th level. So there definitely looks like there has to be something to fix that within Fantasy Grounds. And I'll report that. Now, 13th level, we are still only able to prepare 11 spells, so we're not really gaining anything, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't drop a spell into here that we might want to decide to take at some point. And I'm just going to go ahead and just shrink these a little bit. I've also apparently been ignoring the cantrips. All right, so let's deal with that. I'm going to go with this one. I'll just throw that into there. And that is really everything that we have to worry about when it comes to level 13. So, in relation to level 14, we're going to gain magic item Savant. We also are gaining a total number of known infusions, and we can now infuse up to 5 items. Our spells don't increase, but our cantrips do. So I'm going to deal with dropping this level into place now so I don't forget. Then we're going to add a cantrip here. Oops, really? I must have missed. I'll just drop Bonfire in there. That does do damage to creatures, by the way, in case you're unaware of that. And let's go take a look at magic item Savant. So, Savant. And let's have a look here. So with magic item Savant, you are now gaining the ability to attune up to 5 magic items at the same time. In addition to that, if there is an item that has a class, race, spell, and level requirement, in order for you to attune that particular item, you now ignore them. That means theoretically you could attune an item that really is only supposed to be attuned by a level 19 or higher character, for example. That level of restriction goes away. That is a very powerful feature, but it isn't something we need to add to the actual actions tab. And that actually completes everything that we need to do for level 14. Actually, there is one more thing. I need to essentially prepare another spell because I just realized my math is off. So I'm just going to do that for now. And that actually completes everything we need to do for level 14. In relation to level 15, we are gaining our next Artificer Specialist feature. Nothing else changes when it comes to our top table, and we are gaining an increase in our total number of spell slots. So let's drop this into place. Fix our spell slots, because chances are something has gone wrong up here. Yep. Oops, I don't know why I did that. I was already there. Let's bring that to 2. And at level 15, we are still at 12 known spells, so we don't gain anything else. And that is everything we need to do for the base Artificer class. When I get to the Artificer Specialist videos, we'll cover what happens here. In relation to level 16, we are gaining our second to last ability score improvement. So let's drop this into place. And in this particular case, I'm just going to bring this up by 2 points for simplicity's sake. We are also gaining our, let's see here, ability to know an additional spell. That was already on preparation, so let's go down here, and I'm just going to tag this one. And that covers all of the known spells. In fact, it completes everything that we have to deal with for level 16. In relation to level 17, we are seeing a proficiency bonus increase. And we are seeing access to our first 5th level spell slot. Nothing else is going to really change. So let's go ahead and drop this into place. We don't need to worry about the proficiency bonus, so that's automatically calculated for us. We will most likely have to fix up our spell slots because we definitely do not have a level 9, but we do have a level 5. I'm going to drop a level 5 spell into here just so that we have it available, but we are not able to actually make use of it yet, if my math is correct. So, Bigby's hand is always fun. Nice amount of damage there. Okay, and that actually completes everything we have to do for level 17. At level 18, we are gaining the Magic Item Master feature. We will be unlocking the ability to prepare another spell. We have gained an increase, and it's our last increase when it comes to the total number of infusions that we know, so we now can know 12 of them. And we have gained our last increase in the total number of items that we can infuse. So that is 6. So let's drop this into place. Level 18, and let's take a look at simply preparing Bigby's here. There we go. Do I need to fix up any spell slots? Yes, because we did not gain a second spell slot here, so there should be 1 still. So you'll want to be very careful of that. And finally, let's take a look at Magic Item Master. And literally, this just gives you the ability to attune up to 6 magic items, which you will find aligns with these total number of items here. How convenient. So you could theoretically have items that you have infused that you require attunement. You could make use of them all if you really wanted to. And that actually completes everything that we have to do for level 18 because there isn't any point adding that to the Actions tab. At level 19, we are gaining our last ability score improvement, as well as an increase in our total number of spell slots. So let's go ahead and drop this into place. Level 19. I am going to bring this up to 14 just for kicks. And that is everything that I have to do at this particular thing, but just to prepare for the next level, I will drop that into place. All right, and that's everything we have to do for level 19. At level 20, we are gaining our last feature, Soul of the Artifice. We are also not seeing any additional increase when it comes to any of our total spell slots, but we can increase the number of spells that we can prepare. So I might as well just simply close that and enable that for now. Let's drop this into place so that that's legitimate. And then let's take a look at our Soul of the Artifice feature here. Okay. So with the Soul of the Artifice feature, you are gaining 2 things. You are now so attuned to all of your magic items that you can actually draw on them for protection, essentially giving you a bonus to your saving throws for all of the magic items that you have attuned to. So if you have 6 attuned items that you have on your person, you can have a +6 bonus to your saving throws. All of your saving throws. That's a nice little bonus. The next thing you gain is the ability to sacrifice one of those infusions. So if you are hit and knocked, not necessarily killed, but it's going to take your hit points to 0, meaning you're going to be knocked unconscious, you can sacrifice one of your infusions and instead simply drop to 1 hit point. That means that your saving throws, if you had 6 items, would now be a +5 bonus because you had to give up one of those infusions if it was an attuned infusion. However, if you're using an infused item that you didn't have to attune to, but you still have 6 items that you did have to attune to, you could sacrifice that item and not lose the bonuses you're gaining on your saving throw. Although walking around with 7 magical weapons, holy crap, you might as well be a demigod. Well, at level 20 you essentially are anyway, so it doesn't really much matter, I guess. But this does require a bit of finagling when it comes to actually being able to make use of it. And Here is why. So let me just clear up some of these things so that they're out of the way. This is going to be an Artificer feature, so let's drop it into place. And what we're going to want to do is add an effect here. This effect is going to be 100% dependent on the total number of items that you actually have. So Soul the Artifice, correct? Yep. Okay. Semicolon, save colon 6, for example. Let's say that we had 6 attuned magical items on our person. This will be on self, and it will never expire, and it will not disappear. So this is an effect that as long as the number of magic items that you're attuned to doesn't change, will always be persistent. And just minimize that. And this is what we do. Now, whenever we roll a saving throw, oops, let's go back to the main tab. If I were to roll a saving throw, for example, notice there's a +8 here. Well, I'm now gaining a +14 because I'm also gaining 6 additional points from here. And that's how that particular skill is going to work. But if you've had to drop down to 5 items, for example, or you had to sacrifice one in order to save your life, then you would have to remove the effect from the combat tracker, make the adjustment to 5. This is why I say it's a little bit cumbersome. And then reapply the effect. Not a big deal, but something you just have to remember. And that's how Soul of the Artifice will actually function in relation to this particular character. In reference to the hit point drop, all you have to do is tell the DM, I'm going to sacrifice this particular item's infusion. Please just drop me to 1 hit point. That's all you have to do, and he or she will remove the unconscious effect, as long as you were simply knocked out, not outright killed. And that actually completes everything that we have to do for leveling up this Artificer class character from level 1 through to level 20. And I managed to get all the remaining levels in this particular video. So it'll be a 2-part leveling process. Oh my, I actually kept it short. Okay, anyway. With that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, throw them down below. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section as well. If you liked this video, go ahead and click that thumbs up. If you really didn't like it, go ahead and click that thumbs down. It tells me whether I'm doing a good or a bad job. At the same time, it also helps the YouTube algorithm figure out whether this should be presented more to other people. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comment section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.